Hello, everyone. Can you hear me right? Thanks, DB. Known as Bert, known as Rob, also known as the current reigning Stitch paddle champ. So, don't look at my Playtomic rating. It's a bit sad at the moment, but Kian and Deval told me I wasn't allowed to beat Fred until they had taken Apple Pay live. So, I'm going to be working on that in the coming months. I think it's a very interesting discussion that we're about to have, and I think it really is important to, we've spoken about the future of commerce today, and it's good to think about payments and marketplaces, but really none of that works without the final link, and that's actually getting the goods to the customer's door. And I think it's a crucial part, and I think we've got the right people in the room to have this discussion. So looking forward to it. I'll start with Donald, you on my left, just to go down the line and just introduce yourselves, maybe just a little bit about your businesses, and then we'll dive into the questions.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be coming just after lunch, right? So that means we can carry on, right, without having to worry about lunch. So yeah, my name is Donald Valoyi. I run a business called Zulzi. We deliver groceries to your door. Nowadays, we also do cows, right? I think we've been trending of late for the wrong reasons. For delivering cows to people, right? It started as a joke and someone ordered it and then we had to make a plan, right? And now I'm like, I didn't want to go into that space. So that's what we do as Zulzi. We also are technology partners of ShopriteX 6060. So, we build the platform for ShopRite. We still work with them very closely. Some of the colleagues are here. It was interesting to see them. So that's what we do at Zulzi. So if you want stuff delivered for medication, groceries, we do that, and cows.
Thanks, Donald. Talk about being customer focused.
Hi, good afternoon. Evening. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sureen. So I look after Paxi and Pep Money at Pep. I'm sure most of you have heard about Paxi specifically. We're a parcel delivery service that's situated in all the Pep stores, shoe cities as well as techie towns. So, facilitating and bringing that last delivery service to clients right across South Africa.
Thanks, Serena. I must admit, Serena came up to me and she said, "You're not going to do what the other moderators have done and gone off script." So just to the Stitch team, I think we're starting to run out of potential panelists if we keep going too far off script here. But thanks, Serena. Good to have you.
Thanks, Rob. I think you beat me on the weird thing. The cow versus a snake. But I'm Craig. I'm with the Courier Guy. And we have the great joy and pleasure of delivering many of your e-commerce parcels to you. And as Deval pointed out, we have this massive machine. There's a lot that goes on in the background, which I'm sure in these businesses as well, to actually just get that single parcel of makeup or shirt or whatever to your homes. And as a business, we take great joy out of actually doing that each day. So nice to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. To kick us off with the questions, Donald, I'm going to shoot this one to you. I think it's appropriate given your exposure on both the marketplace side as well as the fulfillment side. Just touching on your experience with working with the 60 app and taking a look at the different challenges that you've faced in that journey and then comparing that to the problems that you're trying to solve today.
Yeah, look, I think, I started the grocery journey like a long time ago. We used to be an aggregator, right? Like where we used to aggregate different retailers. And I think one of the biggest problems back then was a lot of people, when they look at how to create this better experience, they look at the last leg of like when you take stuff and you are supposed to deliver it, right? And I think for groceries, one of the most important part is also like how you pick these things, right? So picking, in fact, I'll say it plays a big role in terms of the fulfillment, right? So if you think about it, like, guys who do food delivery, if you order a burger, there's a slight chance that like you might not get your burger, right? Like, you're always gonna get your burger. You expect to get your burger, right? For groceries, it's not like that, right? So how you pick is very important, and also like understanding that context in terms of like when I order the bananas, do I want to eat them today? how should they be like, right? So that's very, very important. And I think over the years, those are some of the things that we had to master, right? So when we built the initial 6060 app, we had that experience on how to pick from different retailers and how to build the whole stack from the customer journey to the picker app, because that also plays a huge role, right? Like when you order stuff and it's not available, what do you do? How do you communicate with the customer in real time? How do you also take those products to be not to be available for the next customer, right? So we had to build all those journeys in order for you to be able to build a platform that's going to delight your customers and scale, right? So those are some of the key things we had to solve. Today, from our dark stores, what we have changed is obviously now we control the whole value chain from the inventory management. So you go on the app, you can immediately see what's available. So that job becomes much easier, but still you can have a thing where a product is stolen, someone ate a chocolate, they were too hungry, and now the customer orders and it's not available. So you have to have mechanism to communicate with the customer in real time, and that is actually super, super critical for you to create a journey for customers that's going to be delightful.
Yeah, I think that's incredibly valid, and I think regardless of whether or not the customer wants the bananas ripe for today or tomorrow, customers are wanting things instantly. In terms of once they've placed that order, it's a big challenge. And I think, Craig, to you, in a world where consumers expect this instant everything, how are you at the Courier Guy thinking about balancing speed, reliability, and the last mile delivery, and the cost associated with that last mile delivery in South Africa?
Rob, it's a good question, and I think it's an interesting question based on the changing landscape we've been experiencing in the last couple of years and we continue to experience. But certainly in the Courier Guy, we look at network efficiency and we look at customer choice, because on-demand isn't always the first thing that they want. I think there's a variety of services. So particularly in the Courier Guy, we've created a multi-channel, if you like, a delivery experience. We can go anywhere from same day to 2-day to our locker or our counter delivery. So it opens up choice for the customer, which is linked to speed and price. But then obviously within the business, we just got to keep as efficient as possible, because even if it's a fast delivery, if it's not a good delivery, it's going to be a problem as well. So the quality becomes first, and then hopefully the speed follows closely behind.
No, makes sense. And I think, moving to the Paxi use case, Sureen, you have recently moved into the business-to-door delivery service, which is obviously a bit of an extension from the counter-to-counter offering. How are you seeing people and businesses responding to this from an expectation of timelines and the delivery that they're expecting? Are there any use cases that have surprised you?
Yeah, Rob, great observation. I think, Paxi has been through an incredible journey. In the past 7 years, we originally started to facilitate the drop-off of UNISA assignments and fostering a solid counter-to-counter solution, then, launching our business service, and then the end of last year, providing that service not just to a counter, but also to a home, was a natural evolvement. Yesterday, Paxi actually launched a store-to-home service as well for our walk-in clients, so we're very proud of the evolvement of what we can offer our clients. The fact that we do have our 2,800 pickup points is extremely powerful for us. So I think, to Craig's point, it's about the choice that you need to bring to the business, which they can offer their clients, and that goes for our walk-in clients as well. So in our experience, I think the pickup points are still very, very strong, but you cannot not have the offering of delivering it to the client's home. And that links back to service and price, and what is available and what the client can afford.
I see. And maybe to dive a bit deeper into the price element, Craig, in your opinion, based on what we're seeing, is this on-demand model in South Africa financially sustainable?
Depends how many on-demand people in the room. No, I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to say no. And I think it comes down to product line, it comes down to what it is you're actually shipping. So in the grocery market, my gut kind of tells me absolutely that's going to work. In the cell phone charger market, is that going to be a sustainable model? Probably not. But there may be that might augment into something completely different as the landscape changes. And if you just look at the standard delivery, you've got to get critical mass. whether it's through a counter, whether it's through a vehicle, whether it's through one of our 1,600 lockers out there. There has to be critical mass to make something viable. And we've seen it with the Checkers 60/60 and with some of the other grocery guys. And I think we will see it happening in some other markets, but I think it'll be very market and product specific driven.
Yeah, I think I also have to jump in there to defend myself, as the on-demand delivery guy, right? For groceries, I think the way we look at it as well, right? There's quite a lot into it, right? It's not just you delivering parcels, groceries, right? So if you look at like Zulzi, 60/60, there's a whole lot of stuff that you can monetize from the advertising perspective as well, right? So what we are seeing as well, the patterns all over the world, we are seeing a lot of players who are becoming more matured, starting to earn at least almost 10% through advertising, through their platform. And there is no better place to advertise for brands than all these platforms, right? Like if you think about 60/60, Zulzi, you're gonna see a lot of sponsored listing coming through the platform, right? Because of that value, right? Because now we know exactly what you're buying. As a brand, I'm getting more value than going to Google or Facebook, who don't actually understand what you've been buying. In fact, some of them, they really wanna take your data and work with the guys in the background to say, how do you get that data so we can actually predict what you want to buy next, right? So that's very powerful to understand that. But also, like, definitely, like, these on-demand platforms, they need scale, right? And to achieve that scale as well, there's multiple ways in which you can do it. You can also, like, localize yourself and go deeper, right? So, for instance, when we look at Zulzi, what we have done is we're very much focused. Like in Joburg, like young people, they order everything from us, right? Like, alcohol, late at night, we are the go-to platform, right? So within that dark store, we are able to get, like, critical mass and really go deep into it, right? So, it's just hard to do. Let me say, when you do on demand and you're going everywhere, some regions don't make sense, right? You're gonna find that there's a place which doesn't make sense here in Cape Town, but some other places, like for instance CBD, like the density there is quite high, right? So you find that the frequency is so high, so there's a proper use case to do on demand in that place. But there are places where, like, in fact, there are some places that we had to close down as well. Our dark stores were like, oh, this one's not working because there is not enough density, there's not enough demand as well. So you have to balance those things. Whenever there's no density, there's a problem, right? But if you've got high density, then on demand is perfect.
I'm glad that you brought up data points on the different things that your users are buying. I want to ask you a question, Donald, around how are you at Zulzi using data or gathering data to make a more personalized or more efficient delivery experience for that last mile?
Yeah, look, I think some of the things that we're starting to do now is we've been using a lot of AI as well to predict as to, like, what is the customer going to order next, right? So we can do batching, right? So one of the things, for instance, that we start to experiment now is, because the other issue that we have for us, because a quick commerce service, right? So you don't have too much time to aggregate things, right? So what we have to do is to predict that someone within this complex might actually want a bottle of Hennessy, right? And when the driver takes this stuff and goes there, when you order it, the driver already has it for you, right? And then it just comes to you. So what you'll see, for instance, on Twitter, you'll see customers saying, I just ordered on Zulzi, I got it delivered in 10 minutes, right? And we're able to do that by using AI, right? So we've been going deep in terms of, like, doing those aggregations that really delight customers. And the moment you experiment this, right, you don't want to go back. One thing that I've seen is, I remember even early in the days, I used to tell a lot of people that the moment, like, you taste on-demand delivery, right, where something comes so quickly, you will not want to go back to next day, right? As much as, like, we as businesses want to offer all these different services to say next day, 3 days, 4 days, right? For groceries, what we have seen is there's been a huge shift. People who were actually not playing in the on-demand space have been left behind, right? So on-demand, you're gonna have to take it serious in the sense of, like, customers want stuff now, and when I taste it, I don't want to go back to 3 days, right? It changes the way I think, right? It's quite interesting as well for us when we look at the pharmaceutical space. We have, like, things like morning after pills, right? People ordering them online. It's one of our top sellers. People ordering those products, on a platform, and I'm like, I could not have guessed it,
They're not going to use Paxi for that service.
So, sorry, guys.
I think you may have just won the weirdness contest again.
I think everybody's scared to comment on it.
Yeah, speaking of customer delight, Sureen, Paxi has an impressive 98% delivery rate. What has been some of the key obstacles that you guys have been able to overcome in achieving this? And what do you perhaps see the new challenges that could arise in the future?
The 2% are the parcels that's slightly moving, leaking, or sticky taped together over a TV screen. So for the 98%, so Paxi integrates with third-party logistics, and we've got a logistics switch whereby we can decide to play to the strength of the courier for that specific route. So that has made a tremendous difference, in our service delivery, and also partnering with our group courier solution is really making a big difference for our clients. But a big benefit, I think, of Paxi is with the 2,800 locations that we have, we've got 20,000 what we call dynamos, and that's our in-store personnel that's dealing with those parcels on a personal level. So they are the first touch point and also the last touch point, handed over to the client. And we've seen, especially with our clientele, that is extremely important. And the trust that a client that comes in and handing it over, to one of our dynamos are extremely important, and has made a big difference, in the way that we do business. But as we all know, our biggest advantage can also be the biggest challenge. So we need to be very clever with making sure that compliance is adhered to. The fact that it's our stores makes a big difference, so you've got a lot of control over it. But our store field personnel is really phenomenal and has really put us on the map in bringing the service to the client.
Yeah, that's super insightful, and I think it's an important thing to consider. Craig, maybe to put this back to you on the theme of challenges. In this on-demand world, how are you building resilient systems that keep customers' trust strong, even when these challenges do arise, from a Courier Guy's perspective?
Yeah, I think it ties very much to a number of the points that Sureen's mentioned here. It's about the quality, but it's also about almost the predictability of it. So, if you order something, you know that it will get delivered within a day, generally between 10 and 12 o'clock the next day, kind of thing. So that predictability, that consistency in service really builds that trust with customers. And remember, there's two kinds of customers in our business. There's the sender, so it's your ShopRites or your Amazons or whatever. They're sending the parcel, but then there's you, the consumer, receiving it. And the experience for the consumer becomes critically important, because that's where the Corin can come out of the box, so to speak, and really have a field day at Amazon and ourselves if there's a problem with the delivery. So, the team behind it, the mechanisms in place, the optimization, the tech that supports the business to get those deliveries done on time and consistently are critical in terms of the face of the consumer at the end of the day. And, we measure it regularly. We use NPS. We use our standard, delivery KPIs, our first-time collection KPIs, first-time delivery KPIs. So, it's an ongoing thing. It's not just something that works and you leave it. You have to keep at it. And when you're moving close on 3 million parcels a month, you've got to watch every single one of them. Because that 2% can be a lot of parcels. So, yeah.
Yeah, they'll make a lot of noise. Craig, maybe to just stay with you, and looking at a macro level now at South Africa, what challenges do you think are unique in the South African context when it comes to executing and delivering in the last mile?
There's many. I think there's many, but I'm going to keep it quite high level, because often what we do is people say, have you spoken to these guys in Europe, or have you spoken to these guys in America? And you chat to these guys overseas, and they've got these optimization or these territory kind of systems, and bring them to South Africa. They don't know about roads that are boomed off. They don't know about gated communities. They don't know that you can't deliver into hospitals to staff, and things like that. So I think just in terms of that last mile in the B2C environment, there's a number of key challenges that present themselves to our guys. But again, if we look at our teams, we operate in small areas, let's say in Bryanston or in Claremont, and they know the nuances of that area. So if he's got the parcel for the area, he knows that road's boomed off, so he doesn't go that way. He knows the security at that gated community. So they build relationships in those areas with those communities and those securities. And they even know that Sureen goes to gym in the morning, so they don't even try and bother delivering there before 10 kind of thing. So that's really what starts making a difference in overcoming those challenges. And when you bring some of this tech and even AI to some extent where it says, well, go here first. Well, Sureen, I keep saying Sureen. Sinead's not there, so you can't do the delivery. So, yeah.
I see. And maybe just to use Grant's term, let's double click on one of those challenges, Donald. If you think about the challenge of reverse logistics, so the returns, could you touch on that a little bit from the Zulzi perspective?
Yeah, look, I think from our side, because of the speed, also the visibility, right? So when you go on the Zulzi platform, you order stuff, you get to see as they pick. So the accuracy there is quite high, right? In terms of like, we don't have too much of things going wrong from the customer side, right? So the whole tech stack enables us to really pick the right things from the warehouse. So everything's also labeled in the warehouse. Things are grouped according to what's the top seller. So whenever they pick these things, there's also different measures as well that we take before it goes up. There's a weighing as well, where you have to weigh the stuff to check like this product, is it the right product that is actually supposed to go out, right? So there's a lot of measures that we have to put in place. Some of it were for security as well, right? Because there's a lot of theft that happens. So putting all those things together really allows you to deliver the right things, right? But whenever there's returns are very minimal, like probably like 0.1, right? That will happen in a daily basis. So across our dark stores, we deliver almost 10,000 orders from 6 dark stores, right? And from that, things hardly go bad. But also the other one that I wanted to touch on as well is just on the logistics side, in terms of how different these areas are, right? It's quite interesting that, for instance, you look at Joburg, CBD, now it's like a township, right? So when the driver goes there, they also fear that they might not actually come back with their bikes, So the issue of theft actually, it's big in certain areas, right? So whenever you deliver to those areas as well, no one wants to go there, even from the driver's side, and that actually creates a lot of problems. Same thing with a lot of townships as well, where people fear for their lives, and that makes logistics to be very, very difficult as well. So also depending on the time of the night, right? Like if you want to go to Joburg CBD at night, no one wants to touch it, So that also creates a lot of challenges, which is very different from, someone operating in an area that's safe and all of those things.
Maybe Rob, from my side, on the return side, Paxi has done quite good work, servicing our businesses that we deal with. So we have a return, what we call just a API, that we send the merchant or the business a return token, which they can pass on to their client, and then they simply enter into our store, show the token, buy a bag, or we can do a voucher for the bag, R5 bag. They return the product in the store, and all of a sudden you've got 2,800 return points for e-com products across South Africa. And I think, to the point of just, a lot of people will speak about the amount of points, but where those points are located is crucial, So we always joke and say, a town is not a town if there's not a PEP. So, even in Philippopolis, and most of us won't know where that is, so go look it up on Google Maps, you can return a product and it can go back to the business and actually helping those businesses to serve the clients.
Yeah, sorry, I'm also going to jump on the returns bandwagon. And that's so critical, and I think Zulzi's business is quite different to some of the markets we deal with. I mean, in Europe, the clothing and textile market is sitting at between 25 and 30% return rate. So in the e-commerce environment, that's got to go somewhere. So the out-of-home locations like the Paxi points, our lockers, are those places that can be utilized for those return mechanisms. So it's quite a significant market, and I don't think, well, it's not where it is in Europe at this stage, but as our e-commerce landscape continues to grow, we will see that returns and the reverse logistics requirement and demand increasing tenfold.
Maybe just to end off with a final question before we open it to the floor, to touch on that, Craig, about the vision and the direction that you think last mile delivery is going in South Africa. If you had unlimited resources and regulatory freedom, what does this ideal last mile delivery look like in South Africa in, say, 2030, 2035?
So maybe I'm a bit grey already, but like if people start talking about drones and whatever, I'm not quite sure about drones and that yet, particularly in the context of our market. But I think out of home, absolutely 100%. I think that is going to become a fundamental part of delivery in South Africa. If you look at European markets, American and Asian markets, the out-of-home networks are significant. And it's convenient, and there was a conversation earlier about convenience. And typically, the cost to execute is a lot lower. So it drives that cost down for the consumer at the end of the day. There's the returns tied into it. And I mean, how many people these days where you got a couple in a house and they both work 90% of the time? So there's no one at home to receive it. So to have that mechanism where you've got an external out-of-home point for delivery, I think that would be a big part of it. I think just in time, as the automotive industry used to call it, or instant gratification, is going to continue to grow. You click now and you want it now. So absolutely, there's space in the on-demand market as well.
Awesome. We've got a few minutes left. I'm going to open it to the floor. Do we have anyone who would like to ask the experts in the room some questions about last mile? Please, guys, do not give Craig a Waybill number and ask him where it is. He's asked me.
Delivered, what do you mean?
I think there's a question right there.
Thank you. I think we've spoken a lot today about scale. One might incorrectly assume that scale in your businesses just means more drivers, more cars. So just interested to know, what does scaling actually look like in this industry for each of your businesses?
Yeah, I think maybe I'll take that in terms of like maybe where we with groceries as an industry, right? For groceries, definitely we're just getting started, right? We're starting to see people who would never imagine they're going to order groceries, like from our side, for instance, when I compare to when we used to aggregate all these different retailers to working with ShopRite to Zulzi now being independent. We're starting to see all those things, but one thing that is also very critical that's going to drive this growth, both on groceries and food delivery as well, is the price, right? So you get to a point where there's stagnation, like if the price is not right. So the 35 rand, I like to say the 35 rand that we have created as a standard, it looks like it's affordable to everyone, but it's not, right? So there's been areas where so for instance in Pretoria, we've got this dark store very close to students. I like to use it as our case study in terms of like if we were to bring affordable groceries to everyone, how would it look like? So in that place, if you put 35 rand delivery, sales drop by 50%, right? And that represents almost 90% of the population of people in South Africa. So I would say like logistics are going to be very critical, and how you do that, it's a combination of those things. How do you batch things together? For on-demand, obviously, it's more difficult because the time is limited. Like you're gonna have to find innovative way to say, how do I batch these things together in order to increase the pie, right? But people are ready to order online, right? It's just the price needs to be right for them to get in.
Can I also answer on scale? So,
Go for it.
Yeah, scale sometimes can be hurtful if you've been in month end in a PEP, standing in a queue. So then scale can be a little bit slower for you. So I think it's really being innovative in having a differentiation in your service offerings, in still bringing it to the client in the most efficient manner. So it's not just necessarily in doing more of what you have, but differentiating your service type and actually serving the customer on multiple levels and with multiple service types, And I think that will always be the challenge, is to be one step ahead. And yeah, I'm also not on the drone level yet. That sounds scary for me at this stage, but yeah, really thinking outside of the box in servicing those clients. So yeah, it's not just adding more parcels on the top line.
Yeah, innovation and tech. You've got to use technology to forecast. You've got to know where the volume is going to land. You know, you're not going to put an extra vehicle in every city or every suburb as an example. Where's the volume going to land? Is it going to land in Sandton, in Newlands, in Boksburg? So you've got to do some pretty smart forecasting, where the population lives, where it moves, what the LSMs look like there, to actually forecast your volume so you can scale accordingly. You don't always get it right, 100%, but then you're flexible enough to actually shift it around. So scaling up for what we all know is coming in the next couple of months, Black Friday, it's a mammoth task, and we spend 6 months easily in a year planning around that, and not just around resources, but where those resources go and how we service those areas.
Thank you. Sean, do you have a question?
Yeah, so Craig, you actually just stole my question there. I was about to speak about Black Friday, so maybe I'll put it to the other panelists. But again, you know, with scalability, we've always spoken more in a uniform direction over time. But again, with Black Friday, you've got your December period where it's very seasonal scalability. How do you plan for those? You spoke a lot about, obviously, predictability, forecasting, but how have you managed those challenges, and what do you foresee going forward with, you know, those changes?
Yeah, so from our side, because we're working with different courier partners, we can actually counter that quite well, because we're through our logistics switch, I can control that volume to a certain degree. But yeah, to Craig's point, is planning and being as proactive as possible. Black Friday is always interesting, and people are getting worked up. So prepping our call center, prepping everyone, communicating proactively, you know, to sort of make everyone aware of what's going to happen when is one of the ways. But yeah, in our instance, quite fortunate to be able to have a variety of offerings available. Do people
Do you
eat
move more cows?
Is there a higher demand for cows on Black Friday?
Look, I don't know, right? I'm about to find out. This is going to be our first year where we're doing cows, right? On Black Friday. So I'm very nervous as to like what's going to happen. Yeah, but I think for us, like, look, I mean, I'll say like for groceries, like during Black Friday, we haven't seen that much like uptake in terms of like, I think there's a lot that happens in stores, even for 60 everyone, but we haven't seen like much, right? In fact, the biggest I would say traffic we've all gotten in Zulzi was like when we were running our 15 Rand sale. There was a time where I dropped everything to 15 Rand on the app, and we had 2 million people ordering the stuff, and it was chaos. Yeah, so like, yeah, but it's interesting, like in terms of like what this year would come with. We haven't really gotten amazing deals for, I would say, the grocery category online. We have not really seen that uptick in terms of the Black Friday yet. But it will be interesting this year, because I think a lot of brands as well would sort of like want to really do something, because we really need a partnership with the brands, not just us as stores doing it by ourselves.
Well, maybe just think of it like this. I don't think cows or groceries, more of an asset, so maybe the asset class is going to help you pump this Black Friday. Awesome. Everyone, we're out of time, so we'll call it there. Thanks very much to our panelists. Can we put our hands together for them? Thanks for joining us.